G'day expats and welcome to another episode of Expat Chat, episode 171 today. And yes, you haven't seen me for a while, folks. It's been a busy month or so, actually. And we'll run through that shortly as to what's going on. As always, joined by my mate and colleague, Mr. James Ridley. G'day, James.
Good morning, Brett. And for those that are obviously tuning in today, you can hear Brett Evans's voice once more. We had a guest host on last week or the week prior with Martin Jack, but we're back. We've managed to drag him out of the war zone and get him back on for another episode, giving us a good update today. But for those that are tuning in on YouTube, to my left, you'll see the founding director, managing director, Brett Evans of the Europe, Middle East and Africa region. Good morning, Brett. How are you?
But, living in interesting times. Yeah. Normally I
Mm,
say all good, the weather's doing this and stuff. Bit of a different narrative at the moment. Obviously, yeah, if
yeah.
you're sort of hiding under a rock to know what, to know what, not know what's going on in the region right now. But
Yep.
look, I think it's got everyone perplexed. Actually, before this, I'm out of whack here. Guys, all the information we're going to talk about today should be treated as informational, educational purposes only. Please do not construe this as personal advice. If you do need to get personal advice, please speak to a specialist like us. Yeah,
That's right.
back to the usual. Look, it's a weird one because, I think even the Qataris, the Emiratis, the Kuwaitis, the Bahrainis, they're all surprised by
Yeah.
what's going on. So we're all sitting there going, huh? What's going on? And when we're beating Israel on the missile count, it's not a good tally to have. But
Mm,
when we're beating them on missile count, you just, yeah, there's something out of whack here at the moment in terms of the status quo in terms of what's going on with Iran, where their heads at, their mission, their purposes, and stuff like that. So we're just getting on with it. To be honest with you, I had a bit of an interview last week with the ABC that's on our website under the media channel, media
yep.
menu, and as I said to him, I said it reminds me of COVID. You've got your alerts, your klaxon alert that goes off um, when you need to take cover. And then there's a klaxon
Yep.
alert that tells you when it's all clear. Um, we moved the office to work from home from day one, just as an abundance of caution. The good thing about
Yeah.
COVID and our nature of our business is it's all digital anyway. So not
Yeah,
all
it
digital,
is.
but from a systems and operations point of view, we're highly digital. So yeah, to
Yep.
me, it enables us to keep operating like it's another day. Just the difference is there's ballistic missiles and drones sort of flying around us, but we're still talking about
Mm,
the key important points for expats, which is super, financial planning, asset management, property, shares, the whole shebang, residency rules.
yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't stop. And
No.
it's something I like to remind all folks in the Middle East, like, yes, what we're going through is absolutely batshit crazy, but
Yep.
it doesn't mean life stops.
Yep.
So some people actually find these events as a bit of an opportunity to revisit,
Mm,
refresh their finances. Others will want to just seek solace that what they're doing is correct. So I'm having a
yep.
lot of conversations at the moment, but the underlying message from all our clients in the region is no one's panicking.
No.
So everyone's sort of cool, alert, but cool as a cucumber. That makes sense. We're not being
Yeah.
stupid and reckless, but also too, we're not, yeah, standing at the border gate, banging on the walls to say let us back in or let us out, I should say. So
Yep.
yeah, so to me, it's a really weird environment to be in right now. It's just it's different.
It is, yeah, and speaking to a lot of colleagues, friends, and clients that are in the Middle East, in the UAE, in Qatar, Bahrain, those sort of places as well, Saudi. A lot of them have shared the exact same thing. No, it's just business as usual. No, we're still going to work. Some like companies or firms have like reduced how much time they want of their staff in the office, so a bit more remote work, I guess, work from home. But others I just said, no, like we're still having to go in the office, normal time frame, normal hours, everything. It's just business as usual. We just know what's going on, which makes us a little bit, anxious, but it's business as usual. But a lot of us said it's actually nice just still sticking to a bit of a routine.
You've got to get out of the house. That's what I find.
Yep.
I took the car in to get service yesterday. people would probably find it's a very strange thing to do during what we're going through right now. It felt so nice and normal. Drop the car
Mm,
keys off. Okay, see you tomorrow. All good. Do this, do this. Um, I think you need to find that balance between the two.
mm,
And when we do become aware that something's going on or about to happen, yeah,
mm-hmm,
safety is important. But when you
mm-hmm.
get the all clear, don't stay hiding under that rock. Get out, get a bit of sunshine, bit of vitamin D, get moving. I think that's an important part of it as well too, because the I guess the defense system, the alert system is incredibly advanced here. So they've been able to hold off I think we're coming up towards 2,000,
Yeah,
detections, interceptions
that's a
right
lot.
now. So and they've been able to hit 90+%. So
Yep, that's right.
um, if you're going to go through this is probably not a bad place to go. We still have the luxuries of Dubai, and the great
Yep.
missile systems of Dubai, but yeah, I think it's more of a location matter that we're so close to Iran. Um, it's why we're an easy target.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, I want to drive our focus to a bit of Q&A today,
Yep,
because I think whenever you've got some of this kind of conflict popping up, and we saw a lot of it during COVID-19, not conflict, but uncertainty, people changing where they're living, and like what the flow-on impact can be. And this is mainly centered around like tax residency. So we've got a couple of questions we thought I'd jump into today with you and we'll unpack it a little bit.
definitely, mate. So Sean's come up with a question here. G'day, Sean. With the current situation in the Middle East, many of us have sent family back home until things settle down. Is there any risk of a tax problem if my financial plans are in Australia but not working?
Good question. Really good question. There's a lot of, and I mean, I'll add to this, Sean, as well. Like we have a lot of clients where the main income earner is still living overseas permanently. They are a non-resident. The rest of the family, if they're attending school, their spouse, their partner's back in Australia, and they're normal Australian tax residents. But the main income earner, based on their situation, their circumstances, has still kept their non-residency intact without any issues. It's going back, obviously, to the current old 1936 tax residency rules still, all getting around on ships. So the tax residency rules themselves haven't changed. We'll see if Labor gets anything through when the budget comes up in May, maybe. We'll see. But nothing's going to be enacted. But we also need to understand and remember that the ATO was very forthcoming with those that were displaced through COVID-19. And I guess they were trying to be very understanding based on like people that were shifted and moved around based on losing roles and stuff like that. The ATO has not come out and said anything yet. If the conflict, I suppose, is more protracted than probably what we all think, and rather than a couple of weeks, it's going to go for a couple of months, and they might come out and say something, maybe. But having obviously family being sent back to Australia doesn't resume your tax residency or right now create a tax problem. Naturally, your economic ties have gone back to Australia. Absolutely, your family ties, sorry, but economic ties as well because you'll be sending money back. But if your situation remains pretty consistent with how it has been in the past, as part of you being a non-resident, then you're okay there. That's probably as best as I can probably answer that question. It's a good question.
No, it's a good question. I think, to me, the one word that overlies this is temporary or permanent.
Mm,
So if the family are back there on a temporary basis just to ride it out, and then once it all finishes, they come back, no harm, no foul. If they
yep.
start going to school, if they start, if they start putting permanents in, then from the family back there, they will start to be deemed as a tax resident. And I think I coined a phrase back in COVID. I totally forgot about it until the other day. And I sort of called it the take the piss rule. So, the take the piss rule is if you are displaced from COVID and you go back to Australia and once borders reopen, you return, great. But if you stay in Australia claiming COVID, but you don't actually go back when you can go back, that's when the ATO says you're taking the piss and we're going to team you as a
Yeah.
tax resident. So, and I think that's what we'll see in this sort of scenario here when it comes to, there's going to be some sort of, what's the word, measurement of your reasoning. And
Mm,
if you can articulate it, yes, there's drones and missiles, being intercepted above my house, got my family out for a temporary basis, then yeah, you'd be fine.
yep. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, really good question, Sean. And I think we've answered this one a little bit for the next question from Alison. Thanks for your question, Alison. Tax residency status for those staying in Australia but working remotely for Middle East. What are the rules in this situation? I've been in Australia since 1st of November and soon to sign a contract for work in Qatar. Remote, obviously. Oh, this is polar opposite almost. They've been
It
in,
is.
been in Australia since November, but working for a Middle East based company. So well before the conflict.
It is. And I think it just comes back to how most tax scenarios are set up or tax rule legislation set up for most companies, which it's a residency-based taxation system. If you're in
Mm,
a country and you're earning an income, whether it's in Australia or overseas, and you're an Australian tax resident, then you pay Australian tax, pure and simple.
yeah. Yep.
US is the only other country in Eritrea who work on a
Mm,
citizenship-based taxation. But yeah, that one's a
mhm.
pretty simple one. You'd agree?
Yeah, I would. I think, Alison, you've been here for a little while now, so if you're not treating yourself as probably a resident in Australia, then you're probably going to be, because it sounds like you're going to remain in Australia whilst you still work for a Middle East country, a company, sorry. So especially when we get to the end of the financial year, which remarkably is only nearly 3 months away, which has just gone way
Galloping
too quickly
closely.
this current financial year. So even if you just looked at the 183-day rule, you would have been here for more than 183 days. I'd say you're probably living in a rental that you're renting out permanently now. So things seem to be sound like they're leaning more towards you being a resident for tax in Australia.
Yeah, but certainly seek advice. That's what I will say to
Yep.
everyone. Speak to a specialist who knows the how to navigate the grayness of these scenarios. The tax residency rules, as you eloquently pointed out, date back to 1936.
Mm,
What we're going through right now didn't exist as a scenario as part of
mm,
that thought process. So you need to talk to people who know and understand um, those exceptional scenarios as opposed to the status quo.
yep. Absolutely. And sorry, mate, you go.
No, no, so I was going to bring on to Leanne's question, which sort of dovetails in with the other ones as well too. So
Does.
Leanne
Yeah.
writes, does the 183-day rule, 183-day max rule still apply? What are your thoughts on that, mate?
Well, it's still there. The 183 days, it's one of the tests as part of the residency test. Remember, there's four main ones, and you only need to satisfy technically one of them. But the 183-day test is still how we would assess your tax residency. Still speaking to a lot of expats that think the 45-day factor test has like commenced. But no, remember, that was a draft legislation piece that's been thrown back, and now we're waiting for updated guidance on whether there's going to be any new or updated residency rules. We might get some news from the budget. We might not. I'm not sure it generates much extra tax revenue for the Labor government by updating those, but I think it is time we actually saw an update from the residency rules, given how old they are.
I think the amount of volatility, geopolitical, economic, everything it's changing so quickly these days. The current rules are unworkable. They were unworkable 10 years ago, but now definitely so. We need to have more of a scoring based system. So, and I think that's what Leanne refers to there is one of the four rules. And it was one of the rules that the ATO leaned heavily upon during COVID. They said, rightio, we get it. You've had to leave your country because of the pandemic. You've come back to Australia, but if you haven't left within 6 months, sorry. So it is a
Mm.
hard and fast rule in that regard.
Yep.
So fingers crossed, obviously this conflict doesn't extend for a lengthy period of time. And they can just, get it in, resolve it, move on. But
Yep.
wait and see, I think is the best way to describe it.
It is the moment. Definitely wait and see. Make sure your portfolios are positioned to capture like probably any uprun as well. Because I think what you'll see is once there's a whiff or a sniff of some type of or form of resolution, markets love
Yeah,
that. Often
yeah.
markets sort of price in a better scenario once there's more media dripping out more news about that, or you have political heads coming out and talking about it. Markets usually eke that up and they lift pretty quickly. I do believe when this does start to move to a resolution, I think markets will move pretty swiftly, to be honest, because that whole bottleneck around oil supply, economic slowdown, that'll be alleviated very quickly. I think, unfortunately, we're just going through the thick of it. And the biggest concern is just uncertainty. But we've seen the volatility come off actually in the last couple of days. And some markets have actually lifted a little bit. So it just means that worst case has already probably been priced in for the time being.
And to put in perspective, I think this is an important point as well too. And I was sort of talking to a client the other day about it, and I'm going to try and do two things at once here. Put it in perspective of what's happening at the moment. We are essentially back to where we were back in December. So
Yep.
yes, this situation is serious. Yes, it's big. We're talking 25% of the LNG market, 20% of the oil market. Supply chain effects, all sorts of things going on. But let's put everything in perspective. We're back to where we were on the 19th of December. So it's not a total wipeout. The last 12 months, the ASX 200 is up 10.67%. So even if you jumped in 12 months ago and have gone through this, you're still up double digits. The same with the United States. The United States, we are back to where we were back in the 25th of November. So once again, not a total waste of time.
No.
What 12-month returns? 20.41% for the S&P 500. So don't let this be a scenario for you to pause or stop whatever savings, whatever investing you're doing. Keep going. Good and bad times. We've all heard the blood on the streets and all the sayings that go along. There's a book full of them. But don't let this conflict and future conflicts, because there will be more, this conflict stop you from achieving your goals by being consistent, dollar cost averaging. If you liked it 2 months ago where the prices were, guess what? Ramadan sale. It's on cheap. Get it. Still the same company. So as long as it's not Qantas or those sort of ones, which are really, airline stocks really particularly hit. But as long as you're buying companies which are good, solid businesses with 50, 100-year-old balance sheets and P&Ls and know how to navigate this. They've got systems, they've got procedures, business continuity plans, all sorts of stuff. Back them because they know how to get through this. They've done it before. They've done it probably 15 times before. And it will reprice. And that froth has come out of the market and then that froth will build back up again and off we go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't say it better. That's a good point there, but to wind up for today's episode, but guys, keep an eye on the socials and your emails as well. We do have a couple of events coming up in the next month.
Singapore.
So we look forward to bringing those to you. Singapore
peeps. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are in Singapore, looking to come to one of our masterclasses, it's happening around mid-April. If you haven't seen it come out just yet, we'll put some details in the show notes as well. But register, come and have a bite to eat, a beer, listen to us talk for about 45 minutes, bit of Q&A as well. And it would be great to connect in person.
Amazing. Mate, I think we'll leave the good folks there and see you on the next episode.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, mate.